Excellent. Okay, so I just want to make sure this is landing in the right recording places. And we are getting started. Okay, so the 4 pillars of Jenny coaching. So the coaching, if you're looking into coaching my way, this is where you're going to start. And this is everything I do is within all these constructs. So let me give you a show. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you everything I do. Okay, here we go. All right. So the first thing that I was introduced to that helped me on my journey of becoming a coach was dressing your truth. And so dressing your truth became like a big, big deal for me. Why? Well, I have connectedness in my top 10, which means that everything I do has a realm of divine in it. I connect with the divine a lot. And at one point I was headed out to do a lot of business training with a lot of people who had partnered with me. And I prayed and I said, I'm going to be going and doing this thing. What would be the most important for me to be successful, God? And he said, dressing your truth. And it has meant a lot in interpersonal relationships. And so it is a part of my coaching. Why? Because I can show you exactly why. When I meet a woman, whether it's this type 1 woman, a type 2 woman, a type 3, or a type 4, so as they are listed on the screen, I can immediately see how they're wired and how much truth they see in themselves based on how they present themselves, and how much they are trying to hide from themselves. So that is really, really important information for me to, as number 1, empathy, to feel off of them. So if you become a member of the Dressing Your Truth community, and especially their lifestyle membership, there'll be a lot of trainings on facial profiling. Those trainings are fantastic. But if you have empathy in your top 10, you're going to still want to feel people out as you get to know them and as you meet them. And as you feel them, you will literally feel the energy type coming off of them. And so that is what I used to be very successful with clientele. Is when I didn't meet them in person anymore and I was meeting them on the computer, I demand my clientele meet me. Demand is a very soft term in my world as a type 2 woman. I demand that they meet me online, face to face, because then I can get a better sense of who they are. I can still get a good sense of their energy profiling based on their voice qualities on the phone, or like this, depending on how you hold your phone. But this has been very important to me as I have interacted with people. So this is something where a tool as a coach is to know energy profiling and then dress it yourself so that you come across incredibly authentic. And if you're not dressing to your authenticity, you are leaving subconscious clues in someone else's head that you aren't authentic. And we don't want to go that route. So this is one of my very, very most important things that you get into. So dressingyourtruth.com, or it will redirect you to my.liveyourtruth.com. You take the beginner's course. I paid $100 for it back in the day. Now it's free. Go through it, get a membership to Lifestyle. So you get to start to really interact with people of these different energy types and understand how they're wired, because this will immediately allow you as a coach to interact and honor somebody in how they're wired, even if they don't know how they're wired. Okay. There is one rule that I really think is important as a coach is you never ever tell somebody their energy profile number. Exhort them to watch the course online just like you did, because watching the course will bring up a lot of flags in their brain on who they are. But stepping in to your energy is something many people have been running away from for a very long time, a very, very long time, running constantly away from their energy type. We don't want to have them run from you as a coach. So make sure you invite them into this space where they can totally get to know themselves if that's appropriate. I will say I have met people in my journey over my last 10 years of coaching and being in this sphere of really an entrepreneur. And the name Carol Tuttle will trigger people if they've ever had an interaction or been part of this community at some point. The trigger is their own internal problem, not generally Carol, but it seems to be an energy that carries, is that people will be like, well, I just like love people in that space where they're at. I'm like, okay, well, let's set that one to the side and let's work on something else. But for you as a coach, if you can identify their energy profile and then start speaking to them in all those honoring terms, you need it. Next to this book, you will, next to watching this course, you will also want to keep 2 books in your library, which are really super important. These books are going to want, that you're going to want to start with, these are just starting books, is The Child Whisperer and It's Just My Nature. When I'm taking someone on more of a self-study course, like, you got to go get these 2 books, start with The Child Whisperer, read it, find out who you are from the childhood perspective. And that's when people are very willing to go, oh, this is who I was as a kid. Right. And that's who you still are. You just don't know it. Okay. So that's the first thing. Next to that, let me give this a close so we can get the next one up. I very much enjoy doing human design. I also call it birth wiring. And when I'm working with a client, I will ask for their birth information. The most critical of the birth information is their exact time. This cannot be guessed. And I will share with you why, but I will pull up my own birth chart so you can see how this looks. So if you get too involved in this, it is a rabbit hole. So I keep this very much on the superficial level, but there is enough information on the superficial level when I am coaching somebody that it's very, very good information and very important. So just getting a human design book is good enough for you to get that superficial top information. And so this is what you're looking for when you are working with a client. You're looking for their type. Mine says emotional generator. So that there are different types. And again, just like energy profiling, there are different types, but this is what we're looking for is generator, projector, reflector, or manifestor are going to show up here. And then profile, 3, 5, 4, 6, 1, 3. There's a variety of numbers, and we need to know these profiles. So it's funny because I just finished talking about profiling, addressing your truth world, and now this is a different profiling system. These will tell you how they are wired to live their life. And then this sets me up for saying, let's talk a little bit about your life mission and where you're headed in your life mission so we can see where this goes. And then I will also pay attention to where it says themes, where it says satisfaction, frustration. And I'll just give you a quick description of me as me and my human design. So emotional generator means everything I do goes through an emotional wave before it hits this peaceful, for lack of a better term, thought line, but it's a peaceful line, like peaceful stillness. And so I need to usually wait for this to roll before I get to that peaceful stillness. The other thing is that a generator will need to wait for putting out into the universe what's working, what do we want to manifest, and then let the universe, and so this is where high connectedness for me works, is the universe will shift, and then when everything's in place, the universe says go. And it's every person that's a generator will know that. Whether you are or not, they will know that feeling, and they will know when they worked with it and went against it. This is what builds up your credibility as a coach, when you can say, remember how you felt this, and you've never had a conversation with them about this ever, but now they are very aware that you know them. Their profile, again, is how they ride through life. Mine says 3, 5. What that ultimately means is line 3 is experiential life, where I'm going to play around. I'm going to find ways that work and ways that don't work. But when I find the ways that work, I get very devoted to those ways. Hence the reason I'm showing you what it's like to be an intuitive empathetic coach, and working with clients this way. And then heretic, it's terrible names, just like the next system I'm about to show you. Sometimes the words they use are just nothing what the actual thing is. And you just kind of want to run away, but whatever. So heretic basically means that when someone comes to me, I send out this projection that says, I've played around. I know what works. This is what works. You need to do this. And I send that out. And so what happens is I'm projecting this out, and people come in front of me. They look at what they think is me, but it's actually themselves. As I send out this information, do this, to this, to this, to help you heal. They heal, and then they walk away. Okay. So that's part of the theme of my life. And then the last thing I really like to look at is RAX rulership 2. This is usually more than plenty to coach somebody and just have these few top things in your toolbox as a coach. So the incarnation cross tells me what the general outline is of their life mission and how they've been living their life. And as I go into this, it's very interesting. I don't always get a good 100% hit on it, but that usually means there's been something else playing into their life where they are not seeing this theme play out, their incarnation cross play out, or they've been hiding it, or they're running away from it. So either way, their vision is not there. But there's been people I've coached, and I read their incarnation cross, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally you. Like, you show this off everywhere you go. And I've had people chat with me back 30 minutes about this one sentence I've shared with them, and they're like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. So it's really important. In general, again, you can go pretty deep, but you can, as you find out more about it, you're going to want to pay attention to channels and gates. So the gates are the number, the channel is what's filled in. Red is subconscious wiring, black is conscious wiring. And so some people are going to be like, man, I really hate this part about myself. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's who you are, and you're just going to have to embrace it. Okay. And that's part of the transformation as the coach, is say, how about you love you? How about you love yourself first? And then we'll move forward as life goes on. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you that is one of the pillars of what I use is the Gallup Strengths. So why did I come into this? Well, ironically, this was the very second thing that came into my life, but it was the very last thing I accepted in part of my coaching. Why? Well, because I had known for a long time that when you take a report that tells you about how someone's wired, it may or may not come out as true. And I just want to make sure that's working. Okay. And so I doubted Clifton. And then once I started working with Eddie Villa, and he did a year of research, you guys, before he ever charged anybody. He just did hours and hours and hours of coaching sessions with people on their strengths report to really dial in and find out far more than the vanilla that Clifton writes in their books and teaches in the reports that they send out after this. But the report itself is gold. It's how you coach the report that is also fantastic. So when you're coaching this report, you would have to, I highly recommend being a part of Eddie's group, which is Unleash Your Strengths, and then potentially taking one of his expert courses to become an expert in it. Even if it's just an expert for yourself, but because you're already looking at this from the viewpoint of how do I become a coach like Jenny, I'm going to tell you. So this is my report. And I'm going to tell you that it has taken a lot of self-awareness and courage to be able to just blanketly show you everything here that I am. But then again, that's who I am, is I want to say, this is all of me, and I love and accept all of me. That doesn't mean everyone else will. And how about I just tell you who I am right up front so that you can choose in or out before we get into a relationship. And it gets messy because I wasn't being my true self and you weren't being your true self, and now we're not in a relationship anymore. And that happens. Okay, so here's my strengths report. Now, I did take this after knowing my energy type and had been living it for a few years. And so when I got this report, I was like, how accurate is this to knowing my energy type? And it was pretty accurate. Now, having coached many people on this, is all they brought to the table for me. No birth chart, no knowledge of energy profiling, although I could see it on their faces and in their behaviors. I would only work with this and that. And because I only had those two to work with, I found out where there were definite incongruencies and very interesting marriages of the two. So I find that energy profiling really helps someone heal and enter the world of who they are. And just becoming a being. Like, I am me and I'm going to be me. I'm not going to try to do someone else. I'm going to be me. But with the Clifton Strengths, this is how you've been doing you with drama and without drama for a while. How much does it actually match how you're wired? And then once you heal and become who you are, you may or may not need to retake the report. But the report will tell me if you're carrying trauma, if you operate in drama, and if you're willing to be you. So again, when people come and they've met me through the strengths community and this is all they know, I will go through this report. And this report will tell me these things about them. It's so cool. Okay, so let me just give you an introduction to the report. So you have to have all 34. And if someone is not willing to get this report, it's not worth working with them. Why? Because this report is gold and it's only like 50 or 60 bucks. There is somebody I just posted on a question they had about how to get hired. And I said, you know what, go get this report and I'll coach you. And the fee that you're paying me and to get this report will be so nominal compared to the salary you're going to make once you're hired. Because the person said they weren't getting hired. This person said, I can't afford that report. And I was like, then we can't work together. It's really important to understand where your own boundaries are on who you can work with and who you can't. Because if they're not willing to bring something to the table, it's not worth it to scramble and make something work for them because they won't get the value out of who you are and what you can provide. Because I was like, you literally have to pay 50 bucks to get this report. And you're going to be hired like this as soon as I teach you how to operate in your report. But the thought process is, I'm already low on money. How could I spend more and invest in myself? And that's where it's really important. Clients need to be willing to invest in themselves and show up. If they're not willing to invest in themselves, they're just not your person. Because coaching is about, and I love this, coaching, if you think of it in the sports field, coaches, like, they kick your butt into gear. That is what they are there to do. And if someone is not showing up to be made better, to get their butt kicked into gear, then by and large, go to a therapist who's going to stroke your feathers and help you feel good in the place you're at. But for me, and this is why I'm going to show you, I have number 2 maximizer, which means I really would rather work with someone who can go from good to great. In the early years of coaching, I would work with a lot of people who were mediocre and wanted to become good. And it took, actually for me, Clifton will say it takes the same amount of energy either way, but for me, I put more energy and got more exhausted helping someone go from minimal to good than from good to great. But I have met so many of my own clients who have started to go on and become coaches themselves. And they love to hold this space for people who are just like, I'll take you from anywhere to here. And those are the coaches you want for that kind of client, right? Okay. So my Clifton Strengths, the colors are very telling. The colors have changed since I took my report. Red is now green if you were to take yours, but mine says I'm a relationship builder. Everything is about creating a relationship and making it big and beautiful. That does also mean that because of certain strengths I have to know when it's okay to walk away from a relationship that isn't willing to get big and beautiful, as I've shared so far. Okay, so here we have empathy. So like I said, that's why I'm letting you know, like, empathy coach, using my intuition as well as my tools to help people move forward. Maximizer, good to great input. And this is where everything I share upcoming is all about. What have I pulled in and what have I found immense value on? What tools have I pulled in that my maximizer still loves? And my 3-5 says, oh my gosh, this works. This is what I'm sharing with you. There are many tools out there that you will want to incorporate yourself because of your own flavor, but these are my tools that I'm sharing with you. Much like I did an internship for Walt Disney World when I was like literally 19. You guys, I just had my 19th birthday and went out there. And I was trained with the same training they train all their cast members, which is another code term for employees, and that other businesses will send their C-suite, their CEOs, and other high-level people in their businesses to Disney to be trained by the way Disney does it. So Disney puts it out there, just like I'm putting it out there. This is how I do it. But can you be me? No, never. You're going to be you. And that's why there is only Disney. There is no one else. In fact, Universal was so sure they were not Disney. You can tell when you go to their parks. Okay, so relationship building skills. Again, I'm back to relator, developer, includer, harmony, and connectedness. Executing skills I have are responsibility and belief. So I'm going to give you a preview of what these mean for me. I do everything in a way that helps me feel out someone, take them from good to great, use the tools I find that are of most importance. And I really, really, really love to see the potential in people. That's developer. It's as a coach, when people will come in, it's almost like I can see right into their beautiful souls. And actually, I can see into their souls. And that bugs people, some of them. But I can see into their souls. And I really want them to see everything I see. And so for me, it's as if they're already great and they're just showing up to chat with me. That's what I feel and see. But where they're living is they don't know that I can see that. And there's times I forget they don't see that. And I'm like, but you're so amazing. And you do this and this and this. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, let me show you. How about I take you from where you're at and come stand in my spot. And then you'll see all your greatness that I want you to become, if you're willing to go there. And they are. But the relator is something where my circle of trust is tight. It's very tight. And to be in that circle of trust is, if you're in a circle of trust of a relator, it's a high honor. The beautiful thing for me though, is because I have number 6 includer, everybody's in my circle and nobody knows how close you are, because I really want you to feel valued by me at all times. Then I'm going to share you harmony and belief. These are some very interesting strengths. I really love that Eddie calls them judgy strengths. And rather than get offended, I was like, now, why do you say that? And it is because I want to create harmony. And if there's disharmony, my mama bear will come out and it will, you're being disharmonious, get back into line so we can be harmonious again. And then belief, I have certain rules that I live by, and that if you are introducing a new idea that conflicts with these rules, I'm going to have to consider it. And it might take some time to get in here. One of my very good friends, when she met her husband, he was so everything her rules were not, that we joke that God had to plow a hole through her rules just to get him in her presence. And the best visual for this is The Incredibles, when Bob Parr is so frustrated with his boss in his like pretend life that he finally takes his boss and throws him, and he goes blah, 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 through all these cinder block walls. Sometimes you have to do that with someone with belief, is really crush those walls if they're going to believe you. Connectedness, I've mentioned that several times. Everything I do is in connection with God. And so there is a part of the intuition part that's the fourth leg that you can't teach. It is what it is. It is part of you, is that I will be coaching somebody and I'll get an image in my head and I'll be like, oh, they need to hear that. So I'll quickly write it down while I'm coaching them. And I just keep notes and notes and notes, both of what someone's saying to me, as well as what the inspiration I'm hearing while I'm doing it, so that I don't have to interrupt them while they're unloading. Because that's something I say is, come unload the crap. We just need to look at it, see where it is, see how vulnerable you are, and then start cleaning up the crap, because the crap is here to be gold for you. It's here to teach you something. And then responsibility. When I say I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up. That's how it is. So those are the three main things that I can teach, right? That you already know that you want to be a coach because you're drawn to this empathy version. You're drawn to the intuition I use. You've seen it. You've seen me coach this way in group settings. And then, but you want to know what my tools are. So these are the three pillars of tools that I love to use. They're very, very important. To get to know. The deeper you know them, the more you'll be able to tell someone about themselves. And then I'm going to show you the last of why this chart is so amazing. We don't just hang out with the top 10. In fact, Gallup only gives you the top 5 for like $20. And I'm like, useless 20 bucks. We need all of it. Why? Because sometimes you need to hang out and know what your 11 to 14 are. Just like they're just off the side. They're still kind of important, but they're just off the side, just like this little genetic thing on the top shows. But the bottom 5 are very important. And this is where I'm telling you, people live in the drama. Is when I don't feel good about myself, when my self-worth is low, I show up as trying to win someone over, looking at all the statistics and numbers and trying to show up as an expert in what those numbers mean. This is where I create drama for myself. We're trying to be strategic. We're trying to speak super enthusiastically. You guys, communication, just think President Trump, he had communication. Like every word he said, he spoke with positivity and emphasis and short words like, this is going to be amazing, right? I don't talk like that. I just don't. So I learned that as I pulled back and didn't try, I did really well. Okay. So that is where people are going to create drama or not. So now that you know all this information, start looking at it, get your teeth into it, get acquainted with it. I say getting your teeth into it as if you had input, learner, or intellection. Hi. But it's all there for you to look at and see and really fill out as you start stepping into your realm as a coach trained by me.